And we're back on Liquid Lunch, and it stopped snowing outside, Erin.
Yes,
See? Yes, for now.
Nice.
Anyways,
Yes.
it's only 6 more months, and then we'll be back to the spring-like conditions.
I hope so. You never know. It's 2012, you know.
That's right.
Things may change.
But we've got Robin Siegerman here, and Robin, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
What was it, a couple of years ago?
It was, yeah. And you haven't changed a bit.
Well, that's because I have these immortality rings that confer upon one not only eternal youth, but also physical immortality.
Excellent.
Which means that I'm probably going to be, renovating a few kitchens.
Perfect.
And
then let's talk.
Let's talk. Because you've got this book, right?
Right.
The Renovation Boot Camp Kitchen.
Right. Design and remodel your kitchen without losing your wallet, your mind, or your spouse.
Right.
And I told that title to a contractor that I was working with once when I was in the middle of writing it. Told him the title, and he said, "Oh, you're writing a fairy tale." Oh. I said, no, it really is possible. You've just been in the business too long.
See, maybe he should, maybe all these renovators should get the book, and just maybe they can get some of the personal, the relationship management information that they need too.
We need to shift our thinking sometimes, and it seems like it's a good guide for that.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why I wrote it, because I've been actually a designer and kitchen renovator for over 20 years. I've done over 250 renovations. And if you've ever struggled through one, imagine going through over 250, because I go through it with my clients. Right. And so every time I'm sitting down with a client to tell them what to expect and how the process works, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, everybody has the same questions and the same worries and the same insecurities one way or another. And I thought at one point, gosh, it would be great if there was a book out there that I could give clients when I sign a contract. It would answer all their questions before we get started. And I couldn't find it. There are beautiful books out there with gorgeous photographs, ideas, magazines, all kinds of things. But they don't talk about the process, the messy, dirty, roll-up-your-sleeves process. And so I decided, well, I better write it.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a while, and you've seen it all. I take it.
Just about. Well, mind you, every time I think I've seen it all, there's something else that crops up.
Which is for the second book, right?
Yes.
But what are the things that? What are these? Like you talk about without losing your wallet, your mind, or your spouse. So these are the issues. But what happens in that process that causes these things to happen? These problems.
The number one problem that I see is people. Our society is an instant gratification society. We want everything right now. We don't want to wait. And if the planning process is too long, we want to cut corners. And it's everybody's instinct to go, oh, I don't really need that. Let's just start tearing things apart, because I really want to get going. I can't stand it another minute. And that is the first problem. Right. The second problem is getting into the whole process and not knowing what your budget is. Because without having a fixed budget, and you've got to have a little bit of leeway there, yes, but you have to know what you can afford. Because if you start running away with a project, without knowing what you can afford, that's where people get into trouble. And costs start mounting and mounting. Stress builds. When the client is feeling stressed, all of the other people on the job are also feeling stressed. They feel that energy. Yeah. And it's bad for everyone. No one wants to work in that kind of an environment.
I can't believe, though, no, maybe it's just me, but I can't believe somebody would start doing that. Well, I did it here, but I had a budget of 0, and
finders keepers style.
And I was making it up as I went along. But I can't believe somebody would really do their serious home kitchen without having a plan in mind and a budget.
You would be
and
surprised.
All that stuff.
You would be surprised.
What are they thinking? I mean,
they're not.
They're really not thinking clearly. They're really, and maybe they are not. They haven't had the experience. They haven't been through it before, so they don't know what the pitfalls are. And that's what this is going to tell you. And it will take you through the process, because also people will say to me, well, so how long can it take? It's going to take a couple of weeks? I go, no, from beginning to end, the process is going to take 6 months. And it's like I've shot them. They go, what?
Yeah, how come it takes so long? I mean, you're shocking me right now.
Okay, well, because there's the planning process.
Yeah.
And the planning process is at least a couple of months of that.
I would think, yeah.
So you take 2 months off of that right away. And depending on what you're actually doing in the room, if you're tearing down walls, you're relocating plumbing and electrical, these things take time to do well. And you can't just dash them off. Drywall, painting, relaying the floor, putting in the cabinets, all of these things. And I've got a schedule in the book, actually. It talks about what happens on every single day. And it uses the model of a kind of middle of the road kitchen, not too big, not too small, not too complicated, but what happens every single day. And it's 35 days, 35 to 37 working days from beginning to end of the construction. Now, keep in mind, that's working days, not Saturdays and Sundays. Because the trades have a life and a family too, so they only work Mondays to Fridays. So that actually is over a couple of months. You know, that's 7.5, 8, 9 weeks right there. And that's before, you know, anything crops up that maybe we weren't expecting. Like you open up a wall and, oh my gosh, we find mold. And we have to take care of that. You can't just blithely go on without cleaning that up. Well, in order to do that, you've got to hire new people. That puts the rest of the schedule on hold. Everything gets delayed. So there are these things that crop up that people aren't, they're not aware of, maybe because they're not experienced, that they really need to be aware of so that they know what to expect. And if the worst case scenario happens, they're prepared. If the best case scenario happens, everybody's happy.
Right. Which is hopefully how it is. But how do you prepare for people for the worst case scenario and budget-wise as well? Because if they say $5,000 my budget, you have your plan, but all of a sudden there is mold, or you have to dig up the ground, how do you deal with that?
You have to decide what your budget is and allow an extra 15% on top of that for any eventuality that might crop up. If it doesn't crop up, woohoo! Go on vacation, you know, or go out for dinner.
You know, that almost seems like it's not enough, 15%.
Well, that is the minimum, and it really does depend on what you're doing and what kind of job it is. Because, you know, I will work in homes where people are spending over $100,000 on a kitchen. So when you talk 15%, that's probably fine. If you've got a $5,000 budget, 15% may not be enough. So it really does depend. But you do have to talk to experts. But, you know, I'll have people come to me for the first time, for example, and they'll sit down and I'll say, well, what sort of budget do you want to work with? And they go, well, I don't really have a budget. Well, problem number one. Now I'm going to give you some homework. You've got to go and figure that out. And they said, well, how do we figure that out? Because we don't know what things cost. Great question. But they don't really need to know that right off the top. What they need to know is what can they afford. And if they need financing, better find that out before you start shopping.
Well, wouldn't they, you know, I would think that you would start off, whoever is initiating this, we need to redo the kitchen, has some idea what they want. And you know, has probably, yeah, it just seems natural to me, you're going to go to Home Depot or somewhere and just check out what you're considering. You know?
There are a lot of factors involved, though, that you may not know up front. For example, you go to Home Depot and say, okay, I like these cabinets, but there's a lot of other things that go into the kitchen. There's the appliances, the lighting, the flooring, the sink and the faucet, the backsplash tiles, the drywalling, the painting, the labor to do all of that. So getting a cabinet price doesn't really give you the whole picture, you see, and that's where I think a lot of people are getting shocked, sticker shock, because they don't know what other things that they should be considering. So in the book, I also have, again, a middle-of-the-road kitchen where I've listed all of the things that went into that particular kitchen and what they cost. Now, that's what they cost for this kitchen, but you can at least use that list and then shop for things. If it's too much money, find things on the list that are less money, but at least you'll know the list of things that you need to consider.
No, that's perfect, because people definitely need that. Is there a guide for people who have no vision? Because a lot of people know what they want to do, but they have no idea what their vision is.
Well, they really do need to talk to a professional. And whether that's a professional who works in a kitchen studio or in a big box store or someone independent like myself, they really should sit down with a professional, because we can put together a roadmap
Right.
And that is going to be the way that you will actually also save money and save time and aggravation. Because once you get into it, you don't realize how many thousands of little decisions need to be made.
Right.
And if there's someone guiding you through it, it can be a lot less stressful.
You know, you just reminded me of that Seinfeld where Jerry's getting his kitchen redone, and the guy's asking him, "Do you want this kind of hinge? Do you want this kind of hinge?" Just do it.
That's right.
That's why I hired you.
That's right. Do you want this knob or that knob? I don't know. It's a knob.
Do you get that?
Yes.
Do you get a lot of that where it's like, I just can't deal with it, figure it out?
Yes, at a certain point, and that's fine, as long as the person realizes that I'm then going to be making some decisions, and they have to allow me to do that. Otherwise, when it's done, don't then come back and say, oh, but why did you do that? Well, because you have to get the job done. So either, well, somebody needs to make the decision,
Right.
you know, so.
So now, who would be the ideal? I mean, who should consider getting this book?
Everybody who's thinking of doing a kitchen renovation. Honestly, but not only that, actually other designers, because here's the thing that I found in my own business. It's a delicate subject to talk with people about their budget, for example. You know, it's very personal. I don't know you really that well yet when we first sit down and talk. There's a line that people feel if you cross it right at the beginning, they get very nervous and they start to close off. And so giving them a book, you know, is something that is going to allow them to read that in their personal space without feeling pressured by anybody. And so actually, I'm going to be speaking to the National Kitchen and Bath Association in January to their members, and I think that this can help everybody who's been in the business no matter how long, because when they sign a contract, they can give it to their client and say, you know what, this is going to answer an awful lot of your questions. If you have any further questions, by all means talk to me. But it takes the pressure off everybody from being in an awkward situation.
That sounds like a great idea, and it almost seems to me like there should be a book for every other area of the house, or one that compiles all.
Well,
the area.
I'm going to be writing it. My
Yeah.
next one is bathrooms.
Awesome.
Design and remodel your bathroom without getting hosed.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, are you going to have one for like how to build a special little sleeping place under your desk? 'Cause
Well, I haven't been asked for that yet, but I might consider it if I have enough response.
Sounds like you might be
'Cause I need a
remodeling
book
that
like
channel
that.
soon.
But there's basements and attics and bedrooms and kids' rooms and decks and docks and cottages and, you know, it goes on and on and on.
You're going to be busy for a while.
I think so. That's the plan.
Yeah, but this is very helpful. I think it's a great idea what you're doing. And kitchen
Thank
and
you.
bathroom, most important space, I feel, in a house.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, you know, when I saw kitchen, I thought, okay, bath. Actually, I'm in the middle of a bathroom.
Oh, are you?
myself,
Oh,
right? So,
okay.
of course, I'm doing everything wrong. But
Oops.
because I don't have the book yet.
That's
Right. But-
sorry.
We're
You know,
waiting.
Yeah.
But isn't like these are the most important parts of the house, right? If somebody's
Yes,
thinking about
absolutely.
increasing the value of their house, what is it? Kitchen is number one, bathroom is number two.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, because here's the thing. Unless you're thinking about selling your house in the next 3 years after you've done a kitchen renovation or a bathroom renovation, you're not going to get all of your money out. Because after that, you've been using that room day in, day out for those years. It starts to look a little bit worn. It starts to look a little bit dated after 5 years, 10 years, you know. You may still love it, and that's fabulous, but somebody walking into your house
Right.
is going to go, needs a little sprucing up. So you just have to be aware that if you're going to live in your house for a long time, don't do it for resale value. Do it because it's going to make you feel better. It's going to
course.
improve the quality of your life and that of your family. You're not doing it for somebody else. That's a
Right.
bad
Because
reason to do
anybody
it.
could walk in and say they don't
They
like
don't
it.
like
They
it,
want something
exactly.
completely
Absolutely.
different, right?
Oh, thank you. I tell people that all the time, honestly. You know, no matter what you do, somebody is going to hate it
Yeah.
and somebody's going to love it.
Always.
You never know.
Yeah.
So do it for yourself because you're going to love it.
So what do you do when you're not writing the books? Like, do you actually, do you go in and help people with their kitchens?
Oh, absolutely.
and other
I do
parts
the
of the
design.
house?
Yes, yes. I'm an interior design consultant, and so I go in and I help them with the whole house. We can do furnishings and I do space planning for other areas as well, and you know, remodeling of all kinds of different rooms. So yeah, I do
Because
the whole house.
some people, they just go and they're going to just go deal with the contractor, right? They're not dealing with someone like you who's
Yeah.
bringing that that expertise, really, that design
Yeah.
expertise. And I'm assuming that you've got connections with contractors
Yes,
too,
yeah.
so that you can bring, you know, who to work with.
Right,
Right?
right.
Rather
Take
than
the
choosing a
stress off as well.
contractor, you know, out of the yellow pages or something, and you don't really know what you're getting into.
So true. And I always tell people it's a real benefit
Mm-hmm.
when you have a team working on your house who's already worked together before. They know what the expectations
Mm-hmm.
are. The communication is already there. Because in every job, communication is key. And
Right.
if communication is off, that's where problems happen. And, you know, that's not to say that an established team isn't going to have some problems. Renovations, they're not an exact science. They are more art than they are science. And, you know, if you're doing something brand new on a renovation, there can be problems. But the thing is that if you have a team that's established, they have a method of working together that they can figure things out
Right.
and work through it better than someone who, you know, isn't working in tandem with the other people on the job.
And it sounds like you'd be the person to take the stress off of the people you're working with. And you hear nightmare stories about contractors all the time.
Right.
And people not knowing, and at least you're the go-to person that can put people at ease.
Well, and the nightmare stories really are, in my experience, it's not the contractor's fault most of the time. The contractor hasn't been given clear enough instructions. And so he's making his own judgment call based on his experience, which may not be what you're expecting.
Right.
And that's where the problems come in, where someone, and I've had this happen to me, where a client will call me in to try and fix things and say, how could the contractor not know? Well, the contractor doesn't have a crystal ball.
Right, you can't
And
read your
unless
mind.
you tell them, and it's clear in writing, in drawings, you know,
Absolutely.
and reinforced on the site, they don't know. So it's really not their fault in a lot of cases. It's not to say not every case, you know, it's all different.
Well, it's like, because, I mean, I could just see it because the homeowner doesn't deal with contractors on a full-time basis.
Right.
You've got,
Right.
you know, some contractors that you have
Right.
a great relationship
Right.
with already. So
Yeah.
you're like the liaison between
Yeah.
the homeowner and the contractor.
And you know what, the thing is too, that the contractor and I, sometimes there's an issue that comes up on a job, something we're not expecting. The contractor and I will talk about it together. We'll come up with a resolution. The contractor will fix it. The client never even is the wiser. And you know what, that's what we're there for, so that we don't, the client doesn't get stressed out about it, because they don't know what the answer is. And so but the problem is also when a client wants to be involved 100% and they see a problem, they start to get anxious. And you know, just let us handle it. Really, let us handle it. It will be fine. But when they can't take that leap of faith or give us that trust, that's also when things start to have an issue, because tension starts to escalate, and nobody works well under those conditions.
Absolutely.
You know, in so many situations, you need someone who can operate as, you know, moderator type of role, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's really where I say to clients at the very beginning, I'll try and, you know, diffuse a situation. If a husband and a wife, for example, will sit down and say, well, I want this and I want that, and then they
Right.
start nattering together, and I'll say, whoa, time out, you know. Do you want me to step out of the room? Because sometimes I feel like I've got a marriage counseling degree.
I was going to
That's
say,
what I
you
was
might need, it wouldn't
thinking of.
hurt.
That's right, exactly.
So have you saved some marriages?
Well, I don't know if I can say I've saved some marriages. I've seen some marriages that were sorely tested, and really mental health professionals will tell you that a renovation is one of the most stressful things that a marriage can endure.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy thing to have strangers tromping through your very personal
I can
space,
imagine.
and it's a mess, and also you need to know that people care about what your space ends up like. And I you know, that's something that sometimes I care too much. But absolutely, it's a very stressful thing for marriages.
Right.
Now, does this book also have like design ideas? Because people often, they want something to look at, something to inspire them
Yes.
in terms of what they want in their new kitchen.
Yes. There are some design ideas, but actually that is not the focus of this book, because there are 10 billion gorgeous books already there for design ideas and magazines. But here's the thing. I've been interviewed in an awful lot of magazines, had my work featured and so forth, and one time an editor was interviewing me about a particular project that they were featuring. And she said, this is gorgeous. Now, how much did this project cost? And I told her, and she said, oh, we can't say that. that's too much. That would scare our readers. Can we say it costs this much? And I said, well, no, you can't, because it didn't cost that much.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to get set up with false expectations. We have to be real about what these things cost. So that's why this book is what it is. It is not a lot of design. There are some design ideas, but that's not the predominant feature, because there's already a lot of that on the market, which I found does not address the reality of the cost and the time and what documentation you need, who you need to hire, the questions you need to ask, what to expect. So that's really more the focus. But there are things like, how do you pick style? How do you pick colors? What kind of scheme should you be looking for, whether it's traditional, transitional, contemporary? So there is some of that in the book, for sure.
And you're saving everybody time, because this is being realistic.
Yeah.
And it may stop people from renovating for another couple of years, because it's just not going to fit into their life. So you're saving your time and their time.
But they
So
can start
true.
the planning process
Absolutely.
now,
Yes.
and they can just go at it without stressing themselves out.
Exactly.
Well, and in fact, one woman wrote to me after I launched my book. And I mentioned to you earlier, I was on the CBC earlier, and the people just wrote in droves about this book, which was really exciting. But one woman said to me, I don't have time to read a book. Just tell me what I need to know. And I said, you know, my best advice to you is if you don't have time to read a book, don't do it, period.
Right.
Because if you try to cut corners, you are going to get yourself in trouble. Really, truly, please, if you do nothing else, read the book, because it's going to tell you what you need to know. I can't tell you in 5 minutes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have needed to write the
That's
book.
why the book is
Yeah,
here.
that's why it's
That's
there,
right.
exactly.
So anybody considering redoing their kitchen should get it. Also, contractors, a way
Absolutely.
for them to deal with their customers better.
Exactly. Well, and again, they can give it to their customers and say, look, this is what you can expect. And because it's realistic, and I've done over 250 renovations, I know the reality of the situation, and I say the things that sometimes other people can't say face to face, because it's a little uncomfortable.
Right.
So that's why I say in the book, and the contractor can say, here, read this. Then if you have questions, come talk to me.
Now, where can they get their hands on the book?
It is on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, and it's shipping immediately. Makes a fabulous Christmas gift, because if somebody wants to renovate in the spring, they need to be planning now.
Right. And it's a hint.
Yes.
You need to do your kitchen.
That's right. That's right. Just a wee hint. Just a wee hint. Yeah.
And now, when's the bathroom book coming out?
That I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but I'm working on it now.
That's great.
But in the meantime, if people want an ebook version, they can go to my website, which is renovationbootcamp.com.
What, for the bathroom one or the kitchen one?
The kitchen one.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
Great.
But and there are also tips and so forth. The bathroom is coming. I'm working on it, but I am not going to commit to a date yet, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, that's great. And if somebody wants to contact you to help with their kitchen, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm at robin@renovationbootcamp.com.
Great.
And I'm happy to respond. I also have a radio show at webtalkradio.net called Renovation Boot Camp. And twice a week, twice a month, I invite guests on who are experts in all kinds of different areas of renovation and design. Contractors, interior designers. I had a clinical psychologist on actually this week, and we were talking about how do we know we're encountering either someone who's really messy or a hoarder when we go in to talk to them about redesigning their house. Because sometimes as a design professional, you don't know what you're dealing with. And so she was talking about the hallmarks and what really you should do about that. So some fascinating
Can
stuff.
you quickly share that with us?
Yeah,
I'm
we need to
curious. The
know
difference
that.
between hoarder. Yeah, I would love to know.
Well, you know, and I know some people are going, oh, I don't know if I'm crossing
making
that
people
line.
nervous.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous here. Yeah.
Man, it's that's a tough one.
Yeah, really tough. And so you have to approach these things delicately, and to know what to look for, and to know also whether you should be worried about yourself or someone you love. You know, it's really interesting, because people say they want to do something in their house, and you know, I've encountered a couple of situations where I say, well, I can't really help you yet until this
There's-
is dealt with.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's a whole other emotional connection
it
to
is.
what's going on.
Yeah.
That's
and
a
that-
whole other show itself.
Oh,
That could
absolutely.
be a reality TV show.
There
I
is
think
one.
there is one. Isn't that funny? Yeah. Wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
Robin.
amazing.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thank
Tell
you.
us
Thank
about
you
this.
so much
and
for giving me the
it sounds
opportunity.
like the right thing for a lot of people because you got to have a great kitchen. So.
Absolutely.
Please
Thanks
come
so
back
much.
and keep us posted, especially with the
Yeah,
bathroom
when
book
the
as well.
bathroom one comes
I
out,
will. I'll
although
let
we
you
might
know.
be finished by then.
Okay. I hope so.
All right, so let's take a little break.
Yes.
And we'll come back with Phil Jacobs right after this,
Great.
talking about natural medicine. As Liquid Lunch continues on a Wednesday, we'll be right back.
It all happened about a decade ago. I was confused and feeling low. Something to say, nowhere to go. I was stuck with mediocre, some row on row. Through my studies, I heard you call. I gave you some ideas, but that was all.